Hello everyone and welcome to the Year 5 Block 5 lesson number 6 for GL assessment. Please make sure you're in our GL group. The lesson is on non-verbal reasoning and my name is Luke Lloyd. Let's get started. Right, so today we're going to be covering three sections, or three topics. We're going to be looking at questions which involve finding a figure that is most like the first two. We're going to look at some non-verbal reasoning codes and we're going to look at some odd one out questions. So let's get going. The objectives today are to practice these questions under timed conditions. It's really important, guys, that you are timing yourself for these. If you want to do that, I can watch a phone with a timer. Since I know you're watching this video on YouTube, it's also possible that you could open another tab on YouTube and just type in 5-minute timer, 10-minute timer. There are timers available there that you can use as well. Obviously, we're going to cover the three topics. One thing I will say to make clear is really important, although I do want you to time yourself and try to work within time and work out how long you have per question and stick to that. If you do run over once the time is up, simply make a note of where you got up to, and then when it comes to before listening to the marking video, do go back, try and finish everything, and then listen to the results or the marks and go through it and give yourself two scores. One score, what you got in unlimited time in totality, and then one score that you got to time. And it's important there because obviously we need to bring that time score up, but it's important to know actually, yes, I do understand, I just needed more time, or actually no, even with unlimited time, I really didn't understand, therefore I need more help. And in that situation, what I would strongly encourage, and this is also worth mentioning, after every single live lesson that Christopher and I deliver, we will be delivering a Q&A. And so if you look at the timetable that should be sent out and is available on our Facebook Live group, any single one, at the end of that session, Chris and I will remain and we will answer questions. These can be questions in relation to the homework, in relation to past lessons, anything that we can help with, by all means, stop by to ask. So it's just worth mentioning that there. Right, let's get on to the lesson. So we have got non-verbal reasoning, quick practice tests is the book we're using, and we're going to be starting with test 4, which is the find the figure, most like the first two. And if you find it, it should look like this. By all means, pause the video if you just need a little bit of time to get sorted. You'll need a pencil. Probably won't need a jotter for this particular stage, although it might be worth having your jotter out with the page that you filled in for lesson 2 when we covered the Spans-Ross mnemonic. And actually, if you can't remember your Spans-Ross mnemonic, I would strongly encourage you do that now. The Spans-Ross, I'll make a little note over the top. It's each of these stands for a different variable. S, P, A, N, S, S, R, O, S. And in fact, I've seen Chris likes it. Spans ROSS. Either way, wherever you put the S, I don't mind. It might be worth for those playing along to pause the video now, see if you can actually write them out. Can you do your entire Spans-Ross? What do they stand for? And I'll quickly run through them. So pause the video now if you don't want to hear the answers. And they are, of course, shape, position, angle, number, size, rotation, overlap, symmetry, and shading. Of course, it doesn't matter which way around you've got your S's, as long as you have 4 distinct answers. Right, so for test 4, the first two figures on the left are similar in some way. Decide which figure is most similar to the two on the left and circle the letter below. So with this, what we need to do is we need to spot the variables that we have in common and then apply those. Now, in terms of how we eliminate these questions, it's more about going through and making sure, no, I don't think this matches because it doesn't have the correct shading. I don't think this matches because it doesn't have the correct shading and the correct size. Nope, this one doesn't match because it's missing the correct shape. You go through and you apply each variable in time to try and work out what the pattern is. Of course, in this case, we're looking for ovals that are diagonal. For example, a good answer they could have had is they could have an oval that was slightly more vertical or horizontal. And again, I think that wouldn't count towards the others in each case. And so it's going through the process of elimination, testing each variable at a time to make sure we haven't missed out anything. I think that's really vital for these. Do use elimination. Do use your variables to go through one by a time. Try and work out the patterns. And absolutely the best of luck. Right, guys, I'm going to start the timer for 5 minutes, and we'll see you back for the answers when you're ready. Good luck, everyone. Timer starts now. Right, hopefully that was 5 minutes for everyone. Of course, if you needed more time, that's fine, but make sure you then give yourself 2 scores. You've made a mark of where you got up to. Let's start running through the answers. So, test 4, question A. The answers, in fact, I'll reveal the first 3, are A, C, and A. And then I'll just go through and give an explanation as to what each one is. So each figure on the left consists of a rectangle divided into 6 equal patterns, with 3 shaded in different patterns. So that's the important thing. We've got 3 sections only, so obviously 3 that are blank, 3 that are shaded in. So in any situation where you had more than 3, you could remove the answers. Also, the shading must be different each time. So any time where you've got shading that is the same, in this case all horizontal, in this case 2 blacks, you can remove them, in this case 2 dots. So that was your pattern. They had to be the correct number and different shading. For question 2, each figure on the left consists of a shape containing 2 short lines. So anywhere you had 2 short lines separated, you could remove. Also, it contained 4 small circles, 3 of which have to be the same colour. So 1, 2, 3 white, 1, 2, 3 black in this case. So A doesn't have the correct numbers, B doesn't have the correct numbers, leaving only C, which in this case was 3 black and 1 white. For question 3, each figure on the left consists of a square with 1 half shaded and a black line running parallel to the shaded line. So you can see that this is shaded, and here's our black one. In this case, this is shaded and parallel. So the reason, for example, C is incorrect is you've got 2. The reason for B is it's on the opposite side to the shaded. So this is the shaded, this is the line, this is the shaded, this is a line. So it's not B because the shaded line are on the opposite sides. It's not D because although it's half, it's diagonal, which doesn't fit the pattern. And of course E has too many lines, leaving A the answer. Right, next page. We have 4 is C, 5 is B, 6 is D, and 7 is C. Let's just go and talk through them. So for question 4, each figure on the left consists of a regular polygon, which means a regular shape, and regular, of course, means even all sides. So squares are examples of regular shapes, and so are equilateral triangles, all examples of regular, where all the sides and angles are the same. With a dot in the center. The shape is divided into the same number of sections as sides it has. One section is shaded black. So, for example, we don't have a dot in the center of this one, we have a triangle. We're missing a dot entirely. It's not been divided equally. And on this one, we've got 2 triangles shaded in, leaving C as our answer. For question number 5, let's go through. So we've got the answer obviously is B. In its shape, we need to have the top right and bottom left being rounded, and then top left and bottom right needs to be pointed. We need to have 2 parallel lines and a small shape in the middle. So if we go through, obviously horizontal lines, which we don't approve of. In this one, we've got 1, 2, 3 rounded edges, so it's not C. D, again, these are diagonal, not horizontal lines. And E, again, we've got incorrect. So that's how I eliminate those. Question number 6, if we have a look, the answer is obviously D. Each figure on the left has an isosceles triangle with a line at the point where the 2 equal sides meet. So equilateral where the 2 sides meet. In this case, obviously the line is in the wrong place, not an equilateral triangle. 2 lines for that first one as an addition to the lines, which means very simply triangle with a line. D is the most similar. For question 7, each figure on the left consists of 4 circles composed of dashed and solid lines based around a dot. Each set of circles has a dashed outermost circle and another dashed circle somewhere inside. So the outside must be dashed, so we can get rid of A and D. But on top of that, we need to have in total at least 2 dashed lines. So we can get rid of B and we can get rid of E. Because actually, although these are checkered, I'd say they're dashed in a different way. So again, E very much stands out. Right. 8, 9, and 10, the answers are D, C, and D. And let's just run through them. So for question 8, each figure consists of a thin line and a bold line that cross over with 2 small black identical shapes arranged vertically. So you need to have them vertically. So for example, we can remove C because they're not black shaded in shapes. We could eliminate again A because they're not vertical. We could eliminate E because they're not vertical. We could eliminate B because actually those 2 shapes have been reflected on top of one another. So D is only done where you've got the thick line, the thin line, and the 2 shapes vertically above one another. Number 9. Each figure on the left consists of a trapezium with only half of it shaded. So if we go through, A doesn't have half of it shaded. B does not have half of it shaded because this bottom trapezium is smaller than the top trapezium. D won't have half, and nor will E. Meaning C is the only one where half is shaded. For number 10, Each figure on the left consists of a shape with the number of scallops matching the number of small shapes inside. Therefore, the answer is D. So if you look, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And on the outside, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In this case, we have 6 on the middle and 6 little bumps on the outside. They call them scallops in this case, little crustacean-y things that stick to the side of things. So not A because it's 3, 4, not B because it's 3 to 2, not C because it's 4 to 3. It is D because it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to 5, and not E because it's 4 to 3. So again, it's just a numbers game, and I think as soon as you start counting, and this is one of those examples where I might have just jotted on as I was going. For example, here I might have in total there are 6 and 6, 6 on the inside, 6 on the outside, and it just becomes very easy then to spot the pattern. So it's one of those things where just jotting numbers, if you ever are forced to count, is a very useful strategy. Right, guys, please give yourself a score out of 10. Again, especially if it was one to time. Really well done if you managed to get a good score to time. I think these are some quite nice questions. I enjoy these. And again, I think with these, it's often just worth going through all of the options to make sure you've not overlooked anything. There are some questions where you can stop early, but for these, it's always worth considering why isn't it the remaining questions to really make sure you've considered all the variables. Right, let's move on to the next activity. So the next activity coming up is non-verbal reasoning, codes. So this is test 5, and for us, it's going to be just the next page. And it should look like this. So again, by all means, pause the video here if you need a little bit more time. I'm just going to talk through this example because I think it's a little bit more complicated, and I certainly think the codes can be more complex. And again, you have to be very methodical, do each variable at a time, and realize that they're never going to give you a letter that doesn't mean something. So in this case, you need to find something they have in common, and then that commonality will give you some information. So as we're running through, for example, the first thing that jumps out to me is in the top right-hand corner, I have B. So now there has to be something similar about these two shapes. In this case, I can see that they are both circles. That means I've worked out that B represents a circle. So now that may not help me in this case, because obviously the question that's asked about doesn't include a circle, but it also then tells me that the top right gives information on the shape. So in my other pattern, I have been given the fact that this is an H, which makes a rectangle. And since I want a rectangle, I'm fairly confident that an H goes in the top right-hand corner. Now, again, I would recommend jotting in. So I've worked out one thing, I've now written it down, so I can now forget it and focus on the next feature. The next feature I have a feeling I'm looking for is the shading. So now, since that's the only thing that changes, I can work that out. But again, I might choose to have a look, X, W, Y, Z. Sadly not, I can't work out from here. But again, since only one feature is changing, the bottom digit must indicate the shading somehow. So I want to have a little look. What shading am I after? Well, I want the fully coloured in shading. Therefore, Y must mean fully coloured in. So I'm looking for HY, and the answer is indeed HY. Right, that's how we go through these. With these, making notes, I think, is a really strong suggestion. Going through, working out each bit of code, double checking. So, for example, if for example, I had any other two similarities, and I think really the place to start is always where you have, if you had two of the same, so if you had a W and a W, that would be indicative that there's something to find, there's some information there. So always start with the information, the place where the information overlaps. Right, everyone, what I'm going to suggest is you start now. I'm going to put the timer up on the clock for you. And the timer is in fact on this page. So this is what those first three questions should look like. Your time starts now. Good luck, everyone. Let's fast forward through. And welcome back, everyone. So hopefully you're ready now to go through the questions. Again, if you didn't finish, you need more time, that's fine. Pause the video, finish them off. Far better to get the practice to attempt all the questions and then come back and listen to the explanations rather than just doing a couple and then getting the answers. I think you'll get far more value from attempting them first. So that's what I'm going to encourage you to do. Right, let's review the answers. So for questions 1, 2, and 3, we have E, E, and A. And for these, I think it's worth just talking through the answers. So the upper letter signifies, in this case, the width of the line, how thick it is, and the lower letter signifies the angle. So for example, if we have a look, C is a very bold line, Y is a very thin line, X is a medium boldness line. So in this case, we're looking for medium boldness. And then if we look at F, that is an angled line, so diagonal, whereas P is vertical and A is horizontal. So since we want vertical, it's X and P. And those are our different features. In terms of where I would have started, again, the fact that C and C both have bold lines is indicating something, and the fact that F and F are both diagonal indicates something. So they're the 2 bits of information. Right, number 2. The upper letter signifies the type of shape inside, and the lower letter signifies the outer shape. So it's types of shape. And again, where I would look for example, might be T and T, and that both of these are diamonds. So in this case, I want the Z for the outside squiggle, and then I want no inner shape, so it has to match to H to H. Don't forget, of course, to use the answer you're aiming for to give yourself clues as to what you need. Question 3. The upper code signifies this type of shading, and the lower letter signifies the orientation of the rectangle. So the top one is the type of shading, and the bottom one is whether it's orientated left or right. So in case we've got X and X, that tells us horizontal, so we're looking for an X, and the type of shading needs to match, and the closest type of shading is this one here for T. So the code is TX. Right, let's go through 4, 5, and 6, and 7. So we've got, for question 4, the answer is E. For question 5, the answer is C. For question 6, the answer is A. And for question 7, the answer is D. Let's just run through and talk about why. So for number 4, the upper letter signifies the orientation of the cross. So whether it's horizontal, diagonal, and so on. The lower letter signifies the type of line that makes up the cross. So in this case, again, I'm looking at sort of Q and Q as my examples. That gives me this plus orientation. And since I now know that I want D to get the diagonal, the times type orientation, and that also indicates that then since the only other thing that's changing is the type of line, the type of line we want is the M type of line, which is made up of the 2 lines together, so DM. Question 5, the upper letter signifies the upper shape in each figure, the top shape, and the lower letter signifies the type of bottom shape. So in this case, we have, for example, P and P, which means the highest shape is a square. In this case, we want the higher square to be a B, so we're going to match it with B here. And we want the lower shape in a question to be a square, so we want the lowest shape to match with this A. I think the mistake here, you might go, well, we worked out that P was the code for square. Well, no, it would only be the code for square in the top right, so you do have to go back and just check. When a square is in the bottom position, the code for that is A. So our code is BA. Don't fall into that trap of assuming things just based on the code from the top doesn't necessarily apply to the bottom. I think that's quite a good little trap for them to throw. Question 6, the upper letter signifies the number of shaded sections. So how many shadings? 2, 3, 1, or 0. In this case, we want 1, so we're after U. And the lower letter signifies the number of sections it's been divided into, which is divided into quarters, fifths, sixths, and so on. And in this case, we want it to be 8 sections. So that's similar to this one here in S, so US. Question 7. The upper letter signifies the placement of the cross-hatched grid, which is the little sort of like the extreme hashtag sign. And the lower letter signifies the placement of the elongated U shape. And again, you might be looking F and F. The only thing they have in common is the crosshatched in the same position. So in this case now I want the crosshatched in my O position, because it matches this one here. And I want the U to match my E position. So OE is my code. So hopefully you can see how I'm going back and forth. I'm using one thing from the code and applying it to my answer, then questioning, asking, okay, well, if I want this, what code do I have to use? And then going back to the questions for it. Questions 8, 9, and 10. Questions 8 is B, 9 is C, and 10 is A. So if we go through them, for question 8, the upper letter signifies the number of squares. So 3 squares, 4 squares, and so on. In this case, we want 3 squares, so we're going to find the one that matches, which is X. And the lower letter signifies the number of triangles. In this case, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. So we are after 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and that matches to this one here, which is P. Number 9, the upper letter signifies the number of short lines that are on the main line, and the lower letter signifies its orientation. So in this case, we want 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines. That gives us an M on the top. And the orientation we want is this diagonal, which matches to A. And again, guys, just to remind you where I'd have started is I would have looked at B and B here, found a similarity, which is the orientation of the line, and gone from there. And again, I'm looking across the entire sequence to work out, okay, well, what's changing? The number of lines is changing and the orientation is changing. If you only know those two features are changing, you can apply, you can work out which code must apply to that. Right, for question 10. The upper letter signifies the color of the central circle, be it black or white, or grey in this case. And then the lower letter signifies the number of circles. So what we're looking for example, is N means a black in a circle, I means a white in a circle, and then P means a grey. So we're looking for P for the grey circle, and then the number of lines we're after is 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that matches to O, so PO. Whew, guys, well done. We've done it. 2 out of 3 down. Really well done. Mark those, please. Again, if you took a little bit more time than the allotted 5 minutes, give yourself 2 scores. Go through, mark it, write it down. And remember, if you do have any questions, you need a bit more help, the back of the books have got a really nice breakdown of what exactly each code means, and they're really useful. And also, of course, you're welcome to come to any question session, Q&A session after any live lesson. I'm happy to go over any questions in more detail then. Right, last activity is test 6, and this is going to be the odd one out question. So it's test 6 on pages 15 and 16 in the same book, and this is test 6, example 1. Let's just talk it through as a team now together, but we'll add in the timer for when we need it. So there we go. Right, so which figure is most unlike the others? Well, in this case, for me, the thing that's jumping out is the shading. They're all shaded in black, and they're also semicircles, but I think that shading means that A right away jumps out at me. It might be worth making a couple of passes and again seeing if there are multiple things that apply. So in this case, they're also made up from circles, and I would argue that C also being a, well, not some variation of quarters, thirds, not a fraction of circle into quarters, also could eliminate it in 2 ways. So with these, as you go through the span process, do it multiple times, multiple passes, and just check a couple of variables to make sure that you've jumped on the correct one. Right, guys, again, 5 minutes for 10 questions, so it's 30 seconds per question. Do time yourself, and then we'll go through the answers together. Really good luck. See you all in 5 minutes. Off you go. Right, guys, that's it. Let's run through the answers now as a team. So the first set of answers, 1, 2, and 3. So question 1 is B. Question 2 is B. And question 3 is E. So let's go through and talk about why. So in all of these other sections, there is always at least one black section shaded in, and B is lacking that. Whereas if you check all the other shapes, they all appear in all the others, but it's just missing that black section. So that is, to me, why B stands out. Question 2, all the other figures have got the black shape at the back. So if you look here, the overlap, the black one is hidden, black one is partially hidden, this black semicircle is partially hidden, this black rectangle is partially hidden. This is the only one where this triangle is overlapping with the other triangle. That's why B is a one out. So we have 2 black shapes being answered twice. For question 3, all the other figures have got exactly 4/9 of the shape shaded. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then finally for this one, we have 5 sections, 5 out of the 9 sections shaded. Again, with this, it's very easy to get caught up into, how many things are shaded, and it's can be quite hard. The thing to check is, of course, if you end up finding a rule that doesn't work, it's always worth testing. So, for example, you might say, okay, well, all of them need a dotted shape, but hang on, I have 2 that don't have dotted shading. Okay, well, all of them need to have at least one black. Oh, well, they all have one black shape. So you can try multiple rules, but remember, if they don't apply to all of them, or it doesn't apply and it's missing with 2 things. So, for example, what can we pick where 2 things are missing? Well, the dotted being an example. So if you thought it had to contain a dotted shading, because that doesn't work for B, C, and D, that means it can't be a rule. But it's entirely acceptable to come up with multiple rules. Try them, but what you're looking for is that one thing that only applies to one shape and none of the others. Right, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Let me just go through the answers. So we have 4A, 5A, 6D, and 7D. Let's just go through and talk about why. So for question 4, all the others should have an even number of lines and dots. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Uh-oh. So that's why it's the odd one out, because of these lines here. But let's just check the others. So it'll be 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So always even. So 4 and 2, 2 and 4, and 6 and 2. So that's why number 4 is wrong. Number 5. All the other figures have 3 bows and 2 crosses. So if we go through, 1, 2, 3 bows, 1, 2, 3 bows, 1, 2, 3 bows, 1, 2, 3 bows, and the same, we should have then 2 crosses. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So that's why it's the incorrect one. Question 6. All the other figures have the number of small shapes inside and underneath them equal to the total number of sides on the polygon. So if, for example, you had a 5-sided shape, you should then have, as a combination of those inside and below, a total of 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So again, this is a counting one. Really interesting to see how often number comes up with these. And that's why I often say the more difficult things are of our Spancer-Ross variables is number. So always be counting things, counting number of sides. And as you go through, I'll be making notes, be going 5, 6, 5, 6, especially when you notice different number of sides due to the shape. That's often a way of them tying 2 in together. Let's just go through and check. So on this one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So the total is 7. 6, the total is 6. 5, the total is 5. 8, the total is 8. Except for in this case, where we have a 6-sided shape with only 5 shapes in D, which is why D is the wrong one. For question 7, all the other figures have got alternate small shapes running down either side. So in terms of this, so dot, so if this goes dot then line, it goes plus then dash, it goes dot then times, it goes circle then line again, whereas in this case here we have plus plus. So it's these pluses down here that are the deviants from the pattern that don't match. It should go plus minus plus minus, which is why D is the wrong one. Right, last 3 questions. You're doing really well, guys and girls. Again, get ready to give yourself a score. Question 8 is B. Question 9 is D. And question 10 is E. So to go through these, for 8, what we're looking at is all the other figures have got rectangles that are in the same orientation. So you can see here, horizontal, horizontal, vertical, vertical, horizontal, horizontal, vertical, vertical. Whereas in this case, they change. We've got 1 horizontal and 1 vertical. That's why B is wrong. For question 9, all the other figures have different small shapes on either side of the middle line. So you can see how it's divided. And we've got squares and circles, hearts and rectangles, dots and hearts. D, although the shading has changed, it's still rectangles and rectangles. And so that's the pattern. And that's why D is the odd one out. Change the shading, but not the shape. And last but not least, guys, you've done brilliantly to keep up with me this so far. For question 10, all of the other figures have the small vertical lines beginning at both top corners of the rectangle. So all the other figures have got small vertical lines that begin at the top corner, whereas you'll notice for E, that corner is missing. So although the number of lines change, it always starts 1, 2, 3, 4 from outside to in on both instances. But it's that top corner there that is essentially missing a sprue, or the sprues should be, or these lines should be moved over one that makes it the wrong one. So again, there's lots going on. They're trying to catch you out, but sadly the shading is the same. Or in this case, you've got it's the classic 2-3, where you might think, well, is it grey shading? No. Is it the horizontal shading? Sorry, is it the diagonal shading? No, because 2 of them apply. Is it the number of dots? No, because there's always at least a couple that match. Right, guys, really well done on that. So again, give yourself a score, mark your answers, let me know how you've done. If you've got any questions or you need any help, again, answer at the back. I've got some nice explanations that recap what I said, but equally, any of the live sessions, you're more than welcome to come and we'll happily go over any other questions. The last page that I have to leave you with, guys, is just the homework. So if you want to have a look, this is week 3 for both myself and for Chris. This is my week, so I might as well show you them both. The majority of it is in the non-verbal reasoning book. It's just test 7, 8, 9, 16 and 17. But I'm just going to highlight in that you could go on and start using some of the practice papers. But equally, if you want an extension on some more odd one out, because I think odd one out is one of those ones where, again, more practice is better, there is about 3 pages worth you could also do as another extension. So I'm adding this extension into the you could for you guys to potentially finish. And that is in the past NVR 11 plus non-verbal reasoning pack. And again, that's the pack that looks sort of wrapped in cellophane. Right, guys, really good luck with the homework. Again, by all means, stop by if you have any questions. The homework review video will be coming out next Friday. Brilliant, guys. Thank you so much. Hopefully see you on the live sessions. And if not, for the next video next week. All the best. Bye-bye.